Hello and welcome to the first of a series of videos presented by PennFuture, all about data centers in Pennsylvania. This first video is called What is a Data Center? And we will be covering what a data center is and what it does, as well as several different types of data centers. Now, before we get started, this is who I am. My name is Brigitte Meyer, and I'm a staff attorney at PennFuture. And PennFuture is a membership-based nonprofit environmental organization that strives to protect Pennsylvania's air, water, and land, and to empower citizens to build sustainable communities for future generations. My work at PennFuture focuses on land use, water quality, and watershed protection, and I work out of PennFuture's Poconos office. Prior to joining PennFuture, I was an associate attorney at Siena Law in Chester Springs, Pennsylvania, and my work there focused on municipal and land use law. So let's get into it. What is a data center? Well, a data center, simply put, is a facility that houses the computing infrastructure that information technology or IT systems require, such as servers, data storage drives, and network equipment. It's essentially a physical facility that stores companies' or individuals' digital data. It's important to understand that while the buildings may be similar, a data center is not the same thing as crypto mining or Bitcoin mining. This is a different function. Both include buildings full of computing equipment, but this is in fact something else. Please don't ask me to explain crypto or Bitcoin mining because I don't know if anybody can actually explain Bitcoin mining. So to help us understand how we got to where we are with data centers, it helps to think back to the early age of computing, sort of in the 90s. If you were around then, you may recall that if you were doing anything on your computer, such as playing games or writing word processing documents, you would mostly have some kind of physical media where you were storing the actual programs as well as anything that you were creating and saving. So we had, several generations of floppy disks. We had the CD-ROMs. We had also the hard drive, which lives inside your computer and stores information. So this is where we started. And over the last 30 years, many things have occurred. We've invented the internet and also all kinds of other things. And now we have something called the cloud. So if you have been doing any computing lately, you probably have realized that you are no longer using, disk drives or CD-ROMs or anything of that nature to run programs on your computer or to save things. A lot of this is now happening sort of over the internet in what we call the cloud. Of course, we are not actually putting digital information into the literal clouds. When we talk about the cloud is actually still physical computing equipment, mainly servers, which are a special type of computer that stores information and then provides that information and performs functions to other computers upon request. So, for example, if you decided you wanted to watch a YouTube video of a beaver building a dam, you would go to YouTube and you would type that into the search bar, and that would send a message over the internet to the server. And the server would say, okay, yes, here is the video of the beaver that I have stored here, and I'm sending it to you over the internet because you asked for it. That is essentially how the server works. And a data center is essentially many, many, many servers all in one building, as well as all of the other networking and IT equipment that makes the servers work and connect to the outside world. And it's not just individuals who are using cloud computing and taking advantage of data centers. It's also businesses and other entities. So, for instance, a hospital would be using a data center to store patient records and things like that. Same with a bank or office would perhaps be using data center storage for financial records and other records that they might be keeping. So why would somebody want to do this? Why do you want to have your digital infrastructure in a data center and not on a bunch of floppy disks inside your home or office? Well, there are a number of reasons for this. First of all, data centers provide the space that's needed for all of this computing equipment. As more and more of our lives happens digitally and online, it just requires more and more space. And depending on how much of this computing you are doing or your business is doing, you may simply not have that much space in the physical facility where you or your business is located. Second important thing that data centers provide is climate control. Anyone who's used a computer probably realizes that there's usually a fan on the inside, and that is because the servers and the computer chips tend to not work as well if they get overheated. So a data center provides this at a very large scale. As all of this equipment creates a bunch of heat, the data center has complex systems that remove that heat from the building and from around the servers so that they function properly. Another important feature of data centers is protection against power interruptions. We'll cover that in more detail in a later video, but data centers typically include a lot of redundant power so that if the power goes out, there are backups and then backups to the backups to make sure that there is never any loss of power to the servers in the data center. Data centers also provide the ability to access the data stored there from any device or location. So I can take my laptop anywhere, and as long as there's an internet connection, I can access that YouTube video of a beaver building a dam if I want to. I don't have to carry around some kind of disk or physical media to be able to get that. Data centers also provide physical and digital security, and also usually 24/7 monitoring and tech support so that if something goes wrong with the servers and the other equipment, someone is there to notice that and fix it right away. So why are we now seeing data centers where most of us had never heard of this until a year or two ago? Well, data centers have been around for many years, just about as long as we've had the internet, but demand is rapidly increasing right now due to a number of factors. The number one thing is the development and implementation of artificial intelligence, or AI. Training and delivering AI requires enormous amounts of computing power and data storage, well beyond what's required for simply storing YouTube videos or that kind of thing. So we are really seeing an explosion of data center demand to accommodate all of the computing power that is required for AI. There's also just simply an ever-increasing rise in cloud storage and computing as more and more of the things we do happen online, and we are saving things in the cloud and asking for them to come back from the cloud. That just keeps going and going, so that drives demand for data centers. We also have what is called the Internet of Things. So that is, you may notice that there are now things around your house that are connecting to the internet that you would have never imagined why this needs to happen, such as your refrigerator, your doorbell, your vacuum. There are now versions of these things that connect to the internet, and that requires computing power that lives in data centers. We also are seeing an increase in what is called software as a service. So again, back in the day when you wanted to use, say, Microsoft Word, you might actually have a disk where that lived and stick it in your computer, and that's how you would access that program. Nowadays, many of these programs are being accessed online, and there are more and more of these being invented every day. For instance, the service Canva, which I used to create this presentation, is an internet-based service. So this presentation is saved on the cloud, not on my computer. And I've used this service and many, many other people are. That's creating demand for data centers. So let's talk a little bit about the different types of data centers you might see. The first is what is called an enterprise data center. So this is a data center owned and operated by a single company to meet its IT needs. So you might have a financial company or a hospital that has a lot of computing needs, and it sets up its own data center to take care of that. These can be on the premises of an organization's place of business or off-site. These buildings tend to be customized to meet the specific company's IT needs because they are being used by just one company. They're typically smaller than the types of data centers that we're going to talk about right now. The next is called a co-location or colo data center. This is a data center where the equipment, space, and/or bandwidth is owned by a company and then it is rented out to multiple tenants. So you might have like in this drawing here, a hospital, office, and bank all renting space in the same building. So the tenants will typically install their own servers, but the data center operator provides the services around that, such as the power, the cooling, the security, and the internet connectivity. These facilities are designed to be flexible and scalable, so you might start out small and have the capacity to increase as you get more tenants. And they can come in a range of sizes, just based on what's available and what the demand is in the area. Next, we have what is called the hyperscale data center, which is kind of what it sounds like. It's a very large data center built by a company with vast data processing and storage needs. So this is when we're talking about companies that are, mostly those that are running AI. So Amazon Web Services, Google, Microsoft, and Meta, which is the parent company for Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and various other things. These are the largest type of data center. They are probably a minimum of 10,000 square feet and can be millions of square feet. So like we're talking about extremely large buildings or in some cases even multiple building campuses when it comes to hyperscale data centers. And again, the growth of this type of data center is mainly being driven by AI. Kind of moving down in the opposite direction of the size scale, we have what is called an edge data center. So this is a smaller, decentralized facility that's kind of connected to other data centers, but this is located closer to the end users for the main reason of reducing the amount of time it takes for the data to get from the user to the data center and back. This is known as reducing latency, which is that lag that's between the user taking an action and the network responding. And these tend to be strategically placed in locations where there are many end users, and again, are smaller than the other types of data centers that we just used or talked about. As you can see, this is roughly the size of maybe an average office building. And finally, we have what is called a micro data center. These are the smallest type of data centers. In some cases, this doesn't really even qualify as a building. As you can see in this picture, this is about half the size of a shipping container. These serve a similar function as the edge data center in that they bring certain functions close to the end users. So this is the next step, bringing some of those functions even closer than what the edge data center does. These can actually be modular or prefabricated and contained in shipping containers, like you can see here. And their IT loads are, generally very small, from 1 to 100 kilowatts, and are, occupying probably less than 100 square feet of IT space. That wraps up our first video in the series. We invite you to check out the videos that are coming later on. We'll be talking about what's inside a data center water usage and power usage, the economics of data centers, and then what municipalities do to prepare for data centers. So thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.